Wang Jung never dreamt that he would be hijacked by a group of unknown pirates when he wasn't being chased by the Saint and Aslan. It was at the border near the Aslan Empire. It was a sensitive time, so Yan Xiaoshu thought it would be better to go through the underground. He had found a group sneaking into Aslan, and as a result, the group was hijacked by pirates. The pirates of old would definitely not appear near Aslan, but it was different now. They weren't doing this in the open. Their targets were people like these, trying to sneak into Aslan. It was said that many wealthy people were fleeing to Aslan to seek refuge. It was a great opportunity for the pirates to strike. The Las Vegas Mad Mob pirate group wasn't small. Their leader, Wild Fox Las Vegas, was also famous for being sly. He was said to be very accurate in his readings of situations. Only he had the courage to appear near the Aslan Empire. There might be martial law going on, but Las Vegas knew that the attention of the Aslan Empire wasn't going to drift their way as long as they didn't enter Aslan. This was the best time to fish for the fat and rich prey. They could also grow the reputation of the Las Vegas Mad Mob pirate group at the same time, which was important for the expansion of a pirate group. He was a clever leader. This was the third time they had struck. Las Vegas was right about the type of prey. The patrol vessels of Aslan also just attacked symbolically. The key was that Las Vegas knew whom to target, those sneaking in. "Boss, we found a huge fish. The group sneaking out of Aslan has an Atlantis beauty amongst them. Would you like me to send her over to you?" a pirate said excitedly. Las Vegas' eyes became serious and he frowned slightly. He was nicknamed Fox because he was smart. Why would an Atlantean appear here? "Keep her with the fat sheep. Set the fleet off at full speed." Las Vegas didn't want to stay so close to the battlefield. They could count their spoils gleefully when they reached somewhere safe. "Aye, sir." The pirates were excited. A troubled state of the world was their heaven. They thought they would have to give up on being pirates now that the Milky Way alliance had become stronger. All of a sudden, the two strong pillars of peace started fighting amongst themselves. That was simply music to their ears. Every pirate rejoiced. Wang Jung was having a huge headache. Why had he listened to Yan Xiaoshu to disguise himself as a tyrant? He was now captive. Wang Jung didn't understand what was happening outside. He was considering his moves. Should he just bear with it if the pirates were only after wealth? Aslan would be alerted if he showed his moves. What bad luck to be caught near here. There was a ready-made prison cell on the ship. Wang Jung was kept there with some seemingly rich people. The pirates were probably waiting to talk to them. They would probably ask their families for ransom if their backgrounds were special. They were scared **Telis. Some of them started rolling uncontrollably. In this age and time, where war was far away, pirates were the most frightening of all. It was better to die than to be in the hands of such people. Wang Jung concluded that these people would probably be bringing him back to their old nest. That wouldn't do. Wang Jung didn't have any interest in them now. It seemed like he had no choice but to fight. He would have to see how to get to Aslan afterwards. He had to find a way to get to Monte Ellis no matter what. He would be able to mask himself there. It wouldn't be easy for others to find him. The door opened just as Wang Jung was figuring out if he should break through the door. "Stop drooling. This is the boss's. Touch and he'll cut away your weenie. Look carefully. This one will be interrogated personally by the boss." "My God, this is the first time I've seen a woman from Atlantis. Boss is so fortunate." The pirates outside laughed lewdly. The girl who came in seemed to be enduring it with all her might. She wouldn't stand on ceremony if they really did something to her. What bad luck, meeting pirates when she had just escaped from Az. Aina suddenly stopped. Wang Jung was paralyzed as well. What? They had some doubts in their eyes because their auras were right, but their appearances, Wang Jung and Aina weren't normal people. Aina's eyes burned with passion in no time and buried herself in Wang Jung's arms. The whole cabin turned dead silent. What the FCK was going on? An Atlantean girl had thrown herself into the arms of a fat, middle-aged man. **T, fatty, how dare you touch our boss's woman? Do you want to die? Brothers, teach him a lesson. Fu Ker." That pirate was just sprouting vulgarities before his body flew up and landed on the floor of the cabin. Wang Jung felt like he had the whole world as he hugged Aina. What could feel better than this? Xiao Shi, I picked you up again. You won't run this time, Wang Jung said. I really have no home to return to this time. You'll have to take responsibility for me if you want to keep me, Aina said teasingly, even though her heart had already melted. I let you go once because I was considerate. You are my woman from now on, Wang Jung said as he patted his chest. I'm still a girl, Aina protested playfully. Haha, let me chase these troublesome people away. The pirates outside of the cabins rushed over with their laser guns. They obviously didn't think that someone would dare to do something like this on their turf. Let me, Aina smiled just when Wang Jung was about to attack. A spiritual ripple was blasted out. The pirates hit each other with their weapons and dropped onto the floor. Mind control. Aina's spiritual power was so powerful that she could control people directly. It was easy to knock people out unconscious and very difficult to control their actions like that. Aina had done it effortlessly. It was easier to deal with them with Wang Jung's power. The pirate ship was cleared in no time and the captives cheered. They were finally saved. The cheers didn't last very long though. They could see other pirate ships surrounding them through the command room. Las Vegas hammered the podium. Damn it, who was it to spoil his fun? Kill. Take care not to kill those rich prey. 100 or so mobile warriors flew over to the ship where Wang Jung was. Wang Jung had studied space warfare in Elite Academy X before the SIG competition. However, it was the first time he had put it to practice, so he wasn't really satisfied with it. He could only say that the pirates of today were still fortunate to be using mecha of this level. Wang Jung took less than half an hour to finish the battle, leaving everyone wide-eyed. The group of pirates retreated just when Wang Jung was about to destroy them all. They were great at fleeing. The battle had given them ample time to retreat. Las Vegas was a learned man. He knew this warrior wasn't someone he could manage. This wasn't the first time something like this happened within the pirate circle. He could afford to offend neither A-rank warriors, nor Earth-rank warriors. Moreover, paying a heavy price for this gave him no merit. Wang Jung didn't give chase, because he was worried about Aina. He was warmly welcomed back on the ship. Wang Jung and Aina gave the control of the ship back to the original captain. Both of them headed towards their destination on a small lifeboat. Aina sat in Wang Jung's arms. The space was a little wanting, but they felt very safe and content. Of course, that was because Wang Jung took out the pillows stuffed as his stomach. Much skill was required to pose as a rich, middle-aged man. The space shuttle sped through. They came in contact with Mu. Senator Tita would send someone to bring them over. The whole process was a secret. Aslan might be able to intercept the communications, or they might not. That didn't matter anyway. He was going to lead a life that both Aina and him wanted. A life that belonged to themselves. The space outside was calm. That colorful light was an illusion from a human perspective. The senses of different living forces sensed different things. The technology and knowledge by humans were no doubt great. Wang Jung had an interest and understanding of space since he was brought up by old merchant. Only, all his attention was focused on the girl in his arms. They never had the luxury of having alone time ever since they first met. No one was there to disturb them now. They only had one another. Peering deep into each other's eyes, they had thrown away everything else. Aina's lashes were very long and pretty. Real beauties didn't need makeup. Her skin was crystal clear, a gift from heaven. He didn't see her enchanting eyes, but he could imagine them. Wang Jung was fulfilled at this moment, caressing her soft hair. He had been doing his best ever since he entered Ares College, especially during dangerous battles. These experiences made him live his life the way he was living it now. However, all he wanted to do now was enjoy the life of a normal youngster with Aina. Not as the greatest king, not as the princess of the Aslan Empire, just simply Wang Jung and Aina. They hadn't had so much peace in some time. Wang Jung himself relaxed. It seemed as though time and space no longer existed when he stayed this way. The most beautiful princess in the world was in his arms. He was truly content now. Aina seemed to have dreamt of something scary. Her body trembled as she bit her lips. Wang Jung hugged her tightly and kissed those alluring lips. Soft, supple, and sweet. His hands started roaming around playfully. Aina finally woke up with her face reddened. Wang Jung didn't stop. Instead, he was now more focused and went even deeper. His powerful arms seemed to desire to melt Aina into his body. He only let her off when she was really breathless. Her tender, red lips were slightly swollen. Isn't my unique way of waking you up awesome? Someone's skin had become thicker over the past few years. Of course, he blamed it directly on Yan Xiaoshu and Zhang Shan. Who did you learn it from? You're really an expert now, Aina teased playful. Men are self-taught creatures, Wang Zheng said without changing his tone. My potential is high, let's explore deeper into life. You could almost see steam coming out of Aina's face. She knew what was coming. A little nervous, but a little anticipation. She never thought this would happen in space. You just thought of something lewd, didn't you? I was referring to our residence in Tita. I would like to stay in the original village of the Tita people. Wang Zheng smiled. It was a joy to play with Her Highness the Princess. Aina didn't yield. Her little fist bumped Wang Zheng. It was a form of enjoyment to something though. Aina laid in Wang Zheng's chest and happily said, I'll follow you wherever you want to go. How many babies should we have? One can become a scientist, one a general, what about a governor? Wang Zheng said. Aina was a little afraid. How about two? My figure might go if we have too many. Wang Zheng roared with laughter. Xiao Shi was too cute, believing everything he said. Surrounding them was the eternally lonely universe, but it was spring in the small cabin. A cry of surprise and someone's hand was traveling down a familiar route. Wang Zheng would have pushed Her Highness the Princess down and had her right there and there if the location wasn't wrong. How could something so sacred be done so sloppily? Kashawan looked at the video sent over quietly. Wang Zheng's battle scene and their departure were on it. There was little Aslan could not do if they really put their mind to it. Your Excellency, should we? The big battle was ahead, but it would still be easy to do away with a small Tita. No need. Let her lead the life of an ordinary person for a while. Kashawan sighed. Let Lacus out and continue to play her role. Yes, Your Excellency. Kashawan knew Aina's personality. She had made up her mind. It wouldn't help the situation even if they forced her back. Wang Zheng wasn't easy to deal with either. He could even escape the impenetrable trap of the Oracle Star. She had really underestimated this young man. Her father wanted to get the Oracle at all costs, but Kashawan didn't believe in an undying power. Wang Zheng would no longer be important once they defeated the Arbiter Republic. A small Tita wouldn't be able to do anything. Times were different now. Even the powerful saint could only hide in the shadows. Mitchell, do you have news from Lin Feng? Your Excellency, Major General Lin Feng has led the 9th Battalion through 3 battles. All were victories. The generals are quite satisfied. Lin Feng's performance in this war was important as well. He might have performed in SIG, but he hadn't obtained the championship after all. That had an impact, which was why he had to showcase his abilities to be able to climb up to the ruling class in the future. The 9th Battalion was the ace of the Aslan Empire's Air Force, and Lin Feng had been leading the mecha unit. It could be said that he had been given the best resources and support. The rest was up to him. The effects of the war were not as great as people had expected. At least it had not affected the lives of everyone just yet, even though this was a war that could change the Milky Way Alliance and the entire destiny of the human race. However, as long as they were not in the center of the eddy, the ordinary people continued to live their ordinary lives, except with a little more anxiety. Could the war between two powerful empires ignite the war for the entirety of mankind? History had recorded countless lessons. But mankind had continuously challenged the scars of this history. There had never been any exception. The war had brought gains for Titan stars since they were far away from the eddy of the war, and the demand for supergravity energy mines had increased. The Co Group's new route suddenly received enthusiastic support. After all, a stable route during wartime was, without a doubt, priceless. Recently, there had been an increase in the influx of immigrants to Tita. Nature provided a naturally safe environment. Once upon a time, the superconductive mines of the entire planet had prevented them from developing any energy engineering, but they had now become a natural protection shield. The shots of the most lethal orbit main laser cannons of the battleships, when fired from space at Titan star, would have become harmless fireworks before they could break through the atmosphere. This was the most frightening fact about wars. Most people were worried about the indiscriminate firing range of the Zeus or other even more powerful battleships. But it was useless here. As for planetary-level destruction weapons, no one or country had yet dared to be the first to use such annihilating weapons. Any use of such weapons was a declaration of war against mankind, and even the entire civilized galaxy. Tita's Giant Legion was not an issue. The combat literacy of the Giant Legion had been strengthened in the past few years. Not only could they be engaged in battles on Tita Star, they could battle on other planets too. At the same time, they could extract from the Saruman Snake Legion too. These were the core battle powers of the Tita Legions. Rara Durai had gradually displayed his talents as a general, or perhaps this could be the natural talent of the Tita Giants. They need to learn much, all they needed was to be in the position and their natural talent would blossom. This was like an endorsement from the Mother of Life. When a wise one was needed, one would be born to the tribe. If a warrior leader was needed, someone would be gifted with all the qualities of the warrior leader. However, this was not nearly enough for Elder Mu Senator. The Titans needed to adapt to modern warfare, to be able to protect Tita and to step up. This would then serve as a deterrence to the enemies. The Lan family's academy was far from being sufficient. As such, when Xiao Fei and Yi Zixu suggested establishing an Ares Academy on Tita Star, it resonated immediately with Mu Senator. This could provide better education for both the giants and the wise ones. The Titans had to look towards the future. Besides, the happiest thing that had happened lately was that Wang Zheng had decided to go to Tita. This was like a second home to him and the most suitable place for Wang Zheng too. Tita Parliament, humans and the wise ones were discussing political matters, big and small, construction, conflicts, and foreign trades. With the opening of the routes, Titan Star had completed its transformation from a single mining industry to a multi-economy planet. Of course, its power was still weak. However, the foundation had been laid. As such, countless matters from all aspects had also increased. Mu Sen and Lan Ling were arguing. The main topic was the expansion and construction of Lan Kao City, or building an entirely new city out of the wilderness. Although the two were allies, they did not necessarily see eye to eye in all matters. They each had their own interests to protect. Of course, the competition had always been internal and benign. If rationales were not discussed, it would never be clear. Likewise, if there was no competition for benefits, there would be no increment. These sorts of arguments were commonplace too. They had never allowed professional differences affect their personal relationships. As such, the arguments between Lan Ling and Mu Sen had become a scene. A beauty and a little old man, it was indeed interesting. Rara Durai was present at the meeting today. As a Titan, he could miss most parliamentary meetings. However, when there was an important resolution like today, as a Titan, Rara Durai had to be present. As long as he had not voted on the issue, even if the majority of the parliament had voted for it, changes and improvements would still be required before the plan could be officially passed and executed. This was the power of a Titan. Calluses were beginning to form in Rara Durai's ears. They were fighting among themselves. Rara Durai was thinking of something else. His busy schedules these days had indeed caused him many problems and, most crucially, he was not happy. He missed those days when Ada was here. Back then, although he was not a Titan, every day was exciting. But now, something seemed to be missing. Recently, there was news that Ada would be returning to live in Tita. Hence, Rara Durai had been in an inexplicably excited mood. Otherwise, he would have been asleep already in such meetings. Even with Lin Feng's personality, he could not suppress his excitement after joining the war. Perhaps it was his status. He was top-notch. Thus, normal warfare could not draw his excitement. However, such wars were different. They would go down in history for the next decades or even centuries. Some pursued enjoyment, pursued beauty. But Lin Feng pursued eternal glory, like the famous kings of history. The coalition fleet, with Aslan leading the main force, broke into the starfield of the Arbiter Republic with raging momentum. It was not because the Arbiter fleets were weak, but rather the coalition fleet organized by Aslan was too strong. With the enthusiasm of the Mayans as the vanguards, the Mayans had completely disrupted the Arbiter fleet's defenses with their unique understanding of energy attacks. The coalition followed up with multi-level and multi-directional attacks. instantly defeating the chaotic peripheral defenses of the Arbiter Republic. Time and again it had been proven that tactics need not be new as long as they were useful. The coordination between the Mayans and Aslan was a completely invincible and unbreakable momentum. If the Mayans were being targeted, Aslan would become the vanguard. The results were similar. Especially at the national gates, although Zam Star and Forest Star could not be considered invincible, Arbiter had always put a lot of thoughts into the fortification here. Yet internal riots had broken out when the coalition forces came bearing down on the borders. Obviously, everyone was fooled by the steely determination of the Arbiter Republic. The internal composition of Arbiter was not as strong as steel. It was natural for the expansion of an empire to be accompanied by the amalgamation of many nationalities. When external forces provided sufficient pressure, rifts would begin to appear internally. The battles of the national gates had adequately revealed this. The coalition's momentum was even more ferocious. Of course, Aslan had long prepared for their war against Arbiter. The infiltration of Arbiter had sent chills to the coalition of the various countries. Fortunately, they were allies with Aslan. In terms of intelligence systems, the Aslan Empire was also the best in the Milky Way alliance. The most outstanding performance in the Battle of Zam Star and Forest Star would definitely be the Mayans' Vanguard Fleet and Aslan's No. 9 Fleet led by Lin Feng, whose direct attacks resulted in the effortless attacks of the follow-up fleets. It contributed to the eventual internal collapse of the Arbiter Republic. This had caused some overly cautious generals to feel that they had been a little too fearful of Arbiter. The coalition forces were too powerful. As a result, the entire Arbiter Republic's Federation planets were completely exposed to the range of attacks from the coalition forces of the Milky Way Alliance. What should have been a harsh battle ended with ease. The war between Aslan and Arbiter had been left far behind by Wang Zheng and Aina. After 10 days of travel, they had finally arrived at Titan Star. They did not conceal themselves, nor did they make a great deal of their arrivals. Mu Sen had already prepared ahead of time. Wang Zheng's arrival was like an anchor for Titan Star. As for Aina, the Titans did not seem to care for the reactions of Aslan. The Titans had something that very few humans had, and that was accountability. This was Aina's first time at Titan Star. While she was at the spaceport, she was already overwhelmed by the beauty of Tita. The spaceport was very advanced as resources were not an issue. However, this was nothing to Aina. The primeval ecological scenery that was almost well preserved was what was most enchanting. It was really fortunate that Titan Star had not destroyed any of its natural resources as a result of its development. Mu Sen, Lan Ling, and Aina did not know each other very well, so they remained very formal. Lan Ling was full of admiration for Aina. As a princess of the strongest nation of the Milky Way Alliance, she had actually eloped with Wang Zheng, not comparing looks and background. This alone made Lan Ling realize that she had lost to Aina. She was more familiar with Yan Xiaoshu and Yi Zisu. They were also not concerned about Aina's status. Local Tycoon Su was winking and giving her surreptitious looks, causing Aina to feel pretty uncomfortable. Together, the group headed to a branch in the mountain. Mu Sen knew that Wang Zheng and Aina were there because they needed time alone for themselves, so he did not make a big deal of the fanfare. After all, he had been young before. "Princess Aina, or should I call you sister-in-law?" said Yan Xiaoshu shamelessly. "Ouch, Lingling, don't pinch me." Zhao Yiling felt helpless towards this blabbermouth husband of hers. Aina gave a little smile. "You should. See, what did I tell you? Indeed extraordinary. The princess dares to love and hate. Although Aslan possesses the most thriving and advanced technologies, Titan Star has the most beautiful natural scenery. There's also the unique experience of speeding in the wilderness. I always feel that when one's driving, you need to have this wheeling feeling. The maglev car has only speed but lacks the feeling," said Yan Xiaoshu passionately. "Shut up, everyone thinks you're dumb," Yi Zisu could not help but retort. "Don't mind him, Aina. That's the way he is." Aina smiled. "Sister Zisu, I'm alone and don't know anyone here. If Wang Zheng bullies me, you're the only person I can depend on," said Aina gently as she pulled Yi Zisu's arm. Yi Zisu felt rather flattered. She was also feeling sorry for Aina. This high and mighty princess had given up a lot for Wang Zheng. She knew that it was easy for a person to climb up and that it was difficult to step down. She was sincerely happy for Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng rubbed his nose. What did I say? What did I do? Yet I'm still unjustly accused. Wang Zheng, it seems like your tile of the greatest king does not have any deterrence here. The mood had been livened up by Yan Xiaoshu. Lan Ling also could not help but tease a little. Wang Zheng laughed foolishly. He was feeling very happy indeed. This was the feeling of returning home, abandoning the pretentiousness. Right, Elder Mu Sen. Where's old merchant? Mr. Alan Tucker is now the director of the Sciences Academy of Tita Star. As our facilities are too lagging behind, Mr. Tucker has been leading teams to make improvements. He said that he will look for you when he's free. Mu Sen was helpless too. As an elder, he had been very impressed with mankind's sciences because this power had made mankind who they were today. Alan Tucker was a representative scientist of this era. Even the saint's technologies were reliant on him. In fact, old merchant had not been idle while at the saint. As a result of the chaos back then, technical faults had begun to appear. In order to connect them together, Alan Tucker had been a crucial factor, especially in putting the theory to practical use. It only took him a quick look to understand what others understood. He could understand what others could not understand. However, Alan Tucker had been stalling. Right from the start, he had always used the saint as a place to hide out. However, it was a different story when he returned to Tita Star. Tita Star, it was damn backward. Old merchant could not help but swear when he first arrived. Of course, under limited conditions, old merchant was prepared to get to the important point. However, after he came into contact with a large amount of supergravity energy mines, he had discovered a new land. Hence, he had no time for Wang Zheng for the time being. After hearing Lan Ling's explanation, Wang Zheng was feeling grateful too. He knew that old merchant was doing this for him. At his level, old merchant could see more clearly. Tita Star was the foundation of his foothold. When the world was against him, Tita Star would fight alongside him until the very end. Xiaoshu, what plans do Zhang Shan, Mu Jin, and the rest have? Asked Wang Zheng. He had almost no contact with the outside world for a while, but Yan Xiaoshu had been in contact with the rest. Zhang Shan is now the captain of Saruman Snake. Although Elite Academy X has been somewhat intense because of the confrontations between Aslan and Arbiter, especially since most Arbiter cadets have left the academy, he still wants to remain there. Mu Jin is not back either. It was the wish of the elders that he should continue to learn. We are also sending some better potential talent there as well, said Yan Xiaoshu. Ai Xiaolu is back at the Hail Cloud Alliance. That young lady intends to make a big downfall from this war. Ai Xiaolu's acumen was still very high. The Aishi Financial Group would not sit back and watch their opportunities slip by. Over the years, Arbiter had accumulated a huge amount of resources and technologies. The Hail Cloud Alliance would want to take in the winnings too. Everyone knew this. Arbiter isn't a pushover. Tell Ai Xiaolu to be careful, said a helpless Wang Zheng. He knew that Ai Xiaolu probably did not have much of a choice. We just received news that Arbiter has opened their doors and that there have been some rebellions. It seems that when confronted with the pressure of the coalition forces, problems started surfacing internally. It has been plain sailing for Arbiter all these years because they have not been confronted with such strong opponents before, commented Lan Ling. Taking a quick look at Aina, if this is swift, this war may end within 3 months. Lan Ling was worried that, by then, Aina would have to go back again. Wang Zheng would be heartbroken. In fact, she would like to know how Aina felt. Don't worry about me. After I've come here, I'm just an ordinary person. Aslan's victory or defeat has nothing to do with me. However, the situation is not as positive. The strongest force of the coalition, Manalasuo, has yet to make a move. This means that they know very clearly that Arbiter has not struck with any real force yet. If the coalition takes it lightly, they will suffer a big loss. In terms of national style and hard warfare, Arbiter is the strongest in the Milky Way Alliance, commented Aina. Everyone was speechless. At a time when the international situation seemed to be leaning towards Aslan, no one could have thought that Aina would have such a view. But in fact, although the tides seemed to be leaning one-sided towards Aslan, Manalasuo had indeed remained inactive, with seemingly no intention of committing themselves. However, the fleets of Manalasuo had been gathering. If they made their position clear now, at least they could still reap some profits for themselves. But since they had not committed themselves, it meant that they were still waiting. A glimmer of light flashed in Mu Sen's eyes. In fact, these were his thoughts as well. As an outsider, he could observe the situations of the Milky Way alliance in a calmer manner. The coalition was powerful only because of the benefits that they might gain. Although Arbiter was fighting alone, as the lone force, their fighting spirits were none the weaker. They have been losing too easily right now. This seemed a little dangerous. It was unclear if the coalition had come to this realization too, and not just realization, but a true understanding. Alright, that's enough. That's none of our business. We are here today to celebrate Wang Zheng and Aina finally getting together. Let's only talk about happy stuff, said Fatso Yan boldly. Their jeeps raced towards the mountain base. Wang Zheng and Aina's residence were ready in the depths of the Ling Mountain. Elder Shan Yu was elated. He thought Mu Sen would arrange for Ada at his own residence. Mu Sen finally knew how to share after being the governor for a few years. Mu Sen knew Wang Zheng and Aina's thoughts. He told Shan Yu to dispel the idea of using the patriarch's tent. Shan Meng brought men to build a wooden house near a lake in the deep valley of Ling Mountain. When the first group of people arrived, thousands of giants and wise ones gathered in front of the tribe. A group of Tita children were running around happily. Some of them were hanging around in trees. The Titans were now familiar with humans. Shan Meng, representing the citizens of Ling Mountain, would like to present our gift to Ada. As Shan Meng's voice boomed, cheers rang forth. Wang Zheng chose this place because he could be the envy of enemies from other areas. If it wasn't for Mu Sen forbidding the other tribes from interfering with Wang Zheng's life, there was no telling how many Titans would come on a pilgrimage. The Oracle Star was completely forgotten by the Milky Way Alliance. Everyone was sure that the Arbiters were on the same side as the Saint. The Saint would be done for as long as they defeated Arbiter. The Milky Way Alliance fleets were targeting Arbiter while they left the Oracle Star untouched under the direction of Aslan. This was such an obvious loophole, but most of the countries chose not to see it. The fleets could run, but could the Oracle Star run? Should they send a fleet there to take a look before it exploded and the evidence was destroyed? Many more stars were in the skies above. That was the unconcealed fleet from the Saint. Thousands of them were suspended in the air, invisible to all who looked up into the sky. The disciples of the Saint were roaring with passion. This was their force, thousands of powerful warships that could compete against any powerful country. In fact, many of the coalition forces had been swept away. This was no more an inspiration, but a madness. The massacre in the Holy City was still ongoing, so was the battle for the son of Saint. Amongst the 5 core sons of Saint, one was dead, one had fled. The situation had become more intense with 3 remaining. The Holy City didn't allow anyone to remain neutral. Join a son of Saint or die. No one understood what the Great Elder was planning, but they had no choice. Constant confrontations and attacks happened between the 3 fractions. There was no winner, only mountains of corpses. The huge change naturally alerted the other elders. The second elder was gone. The third, fourth, fifth, seventh, and ninth elders had the same interests as the Great Elder, even though they might not be on the same side. They didn't appear when the Great Elder called for them. Those that did appear obviously wanted to remain on the aircraft carrier of the Aslan Empire. This was all within the expectations of Constantine. Unfortunately, he hadn't captured Wang Zheng. If he had, he would have gotten rid of all these elders. There was no more need for the Saint within Aslan Empire that had absolute control. Constantine was going to rid the thorns standing in the way of his power. The competition for the son of Saint was a good way to showcase this. Those who were with him would survive, while those that weren't only deserved death. Too many was trouble as well. It was the right time for purification. Wang Zheng, well, this lad was really lucky. He had managed to contact Alan Tucker somehow and survived. That was out of his expectations. However, it wasn't time for the Saint to appear. Constantine could only wait. He had waited all these years. What was a few more moments? The good news was that the Zerg gene fusion experiment was very successful. Constantine might possess the most knowledge of the abyssal Zergs. Under that person's leadership all those years back, The Saint Church from the solar system finally defeated the core of the Zergs. The problem was that humans were scavengers of the universe, destroying cultivation continuously. This cycle never ended. The Zergs rose up again and again with unlimited life force. Until now, humans had yet to understand where the Zergs came from. That person somehow broke off the invasion route of the Zergs before the second wave of the insect plague. However, he went off in the end. Constantine didn't understand. He clearly had abnormal powers. How could he just give everything up and leave? He would never have wasted that power if it was his. Obviously the abyssal Zergs were on a terrifying level. The best way to resolve this was to get Aslan to unify the Milky Way Alliance and establish an efficient human world. He would also obtain that inheritance at the same time. Of course, humans were not the same as they were. Studying the abyssal Zergs could allow humans to further understand their power. The Zerg tribe had tried to fuse with humans then. Why couldn't the present humans prepare for it now? Lear and Luo Fei had made extraordinary progress. That was the only good news recently. Constantine would hold a trump card as long as they were to succeed. He wanted data from the experiments. Lear and Luo Fei's lives weren't important. Lear was someone with ambition, which wasn't a bad thing. His concern was if this person could be controlled, and if he could be, was it beneficial to Aslan's great plan? Constantine had his decision in a matter of seconds. Lear and Luo Fei had to die because they weren't his people. He could copy these over to his trusted warriors once they had enough data. He wasn't going to leave such a big variant in his plan. The era of humans on Earth was over. Master, Princess Wuyan's condition isn't so good. Should we find a reason to send her back to Aslan? The 13th Elder suggested respectfully. Constantine knitted his brows. This was something bothering him recently. This granddaughter of his was too childish. How had Kashawin educated her? How could she be so ignorant when faced with the interest and direction of their great empire? Constantine had wronged Kashawin. The Prime Minister didn't have the time to teach her child. It was lucky that she didn't have the time as well. Wuyan was angelic. Wuyan's sudden appearance was what gave Wang Zheng time to escape. If not for her, even though his plan was great, he wouldn't have been able to escape from the clutches of a heaven rank. Isn't the Oracle Star good enough? Master, Highness Wuyan is troubled by affairs of the heart. She might get better if she were to return to Aslan, the 13th Elder continued. She is having a constant fever and is muttering a name repeatedly. Who is it for her to miss him so much? Get him here. It was so much easier for them to bring a person over than to send Wuyan back. Wang Zheng. Constantine's face darkened the moment that name escaped the 13th Elder's lips. The vital energy of Ling Mountain was uniquely fresh, especially suitable for Aina. This was why Wang Zheng had chosen to reside here. Aina loved the serenity of this place. She stood by the lake in the mornings and basked in the sun. Her every breath brought her peace. All her worries disappeared with the wind. The Titans didn't give them too much trouble since Mu Sen had spoken to Shan Meng about it. It wasn't so dry that night, and Wang Zheng might not have any issues, but Aina was exhausted. Most importantly, Wang Zheng knew that although Aina looked very calm, she was likely dying inside. They slept hugging each other. Aina slept well. During the times when she trembled, Wang Zheng needed only to hug her and pat her back for her to regain her calmness. The beautiful Tita and time would let Aina forget her pain. Xiao Shi, time to eat breakfast. Wang Zheng called out to Aina as he stretched. Such a charming morning with the beautiful Aina. Aina looked over her shoulder and smiled. The scenery around her lost its luster all of a sudden. Are we trying your cooking? Breakfast was fish, small dishes made with Tita's unique wide mountain vegetables, and the porridge of the Titans. These were all made in consideration of Aina's appetite. They were sent over by the children of Ling Mountain. The basic facilities were all here, but not at the stage where you could just switch the stove on to cook. This place is great. Aina wiped her red, succulent lips after she was done and roused her eyes at Wang Zheng. Aina's heart was filled with warmth. Honestly, she would have been fine with it if Wang Zheng desired her last night, but there would be some form of regret. Every girl wanted a wedding, a ceremony, an important promise. It might not be in this form, but it was to satisfy themselves. She took Wang Zheng's hand and led him outside. She took a deep breath and opened her arms unconsciously. It was unclear if she was the one hugging the planet or if the planet was admiring her. Wang Jung could feel that Ana's aura was very comparable to her surroundings. Wang Jung had never once doubted Ana's gift. As a princess, she didn't need to develop too much combat power. He hoped that Ana would be comfortable here, he was the same. The weather is good, let me cultivate for a bit, Wang Jung said with a smile. Ana clapped at his side, please do, my greatest king. Wang Dong didn't stand on the ceremony, with his spiritual power integrating with the surrounding. Integrating, understanding everything that was there, everything natural. The universe was composed of countless small universes. This was not something humans could really understand, but Wang Jung was already getting started. This was not something technology could catch up to, but a realm. There was a universe in himself. Time, life, could be considered another kind, just a different kind. Once they comprehended it, they could break the boundaries and detach from the limitations of life. Ana gradually approached Wang Jung. It was very dangerous actually. Everything seemed calm, but Wang Jung was surrounded by power surges. There was a huge resistance, but that didn't seem to hinder Ana's progress at all. She integrated with it, as natural as the river flowing into the sea. Wang Jung and Ana danced around with that feeling. Their hands linked. That beautiful scenery became more harmonious because of them. In the wooden house in the distance, Yan Xiaoshu was using the telescope function of the Skylink. Tears streamed down his eyes. Tyrant Su didn't know what was wrong with him, but he couldn't help but cry. They were finally together after so many difficulties. Kashawan insulting them and the difference in their statuses were difficult to overcome. He had gone through a few relationships himself and had been looked down upon before. However, everyone was different. He knew Wang Jung's temper and was sure things would be all right. He was happier for Wang Jung than for his own marriage. Lan Ling was at his side. She kicked him. My turn. Lan Ling's Skylink wasn't as powerful as Tyrant Su's. His was a limited edition, model 117 made of platinum, boosting a lot of functions. She didn't understand why, but she felt that the scene was so beautiful even though her heart was breaking. Though it was a fact that she couldn't beat Ana. Say, does Aslan have a one husband many wives rule? I don't know if Ana minds or not, but I can be the mistress. There was no strict one man, one wife law on Tita since the planet was relatively backwards still. This was encouraged. The Lan family themselves was a huge family. Polygamy and polyandry both existed and often determined their status in the family. Yan Xiaoshu grinned. Then you can consider me, I don't mind. But I mind. Lan Ling glared at Yan Xiaoshu in reply. Tyrant Su rubbed his nose. I'm quite handsome as well, just slightly chubby and not the greatest king. Wang Jung and Ana were immersed in their own world. I actually harbored ill intentions the very first time I picked you up, Wang Jung said as he squeezed her hand. Really, you are really bad then, Ana smiled gently. Ana, no matter whether you are the princess or just a girl, I'll always be by your side protecting you, no matter the challenges we face. Marry me. Wang Jung had mustered all his courage for this moment, which was no less than when he was in the SIG competition. Ana's eyes turned red. Her thin, long hand caressed Wang Jung's face. No matter whether you are the greatest king or just a normal earth boy, I'll only love you throughout my life. You can kiss now. I pronounce you husband and wife, Yan Xiaoshu said, dancing afar. Wang Jung and Ana were interlocked in each other's arms. Yan Xiaoshu was crying hard. How many times could one witness such feelings? Yan Xiaoshu knew he wouldn't be able since he was very content with his current situation. However, he really admired his brother. They had to be happy after going through so much. Everything else could just go to hell, people were alive to be happy. Yan Xiaoshu pulled Lan Ling away. Let's go. Go? We have something to say, right? Next time. The sky won't fall, and there are never-ending amounts of things to do. Humans should try to enjoy themselves when they can. Today is an important day for my boss. Let them be alone. What a pity. I wanted to be the best man originally, Yan Xiaoshu said, a little regretfully. Zhang Shan sneezed a dozen times consecutively at Elite Academy X. He seemed to have missed out on something important. Wang Jung and Ana didn't mind the form of the ceremony. They decorated their house with fresh flowers and tidied up their room. Wang Jung then brought Ana all over Ling Mountain and waited for night to come. This was a ceremony only for them, with only nature and the universe as witnesses. Dinner was the fish that Wang Jung caught in the river and some meat hunted during the day. Tita was similar to Earth in many ways. The Titans were also similar to humans, other than their size. Aina was filled with laughter throughout the day, and excitement grew as night fell. When Wang Jung shut the door and Aina couldn't hear anything but her beating heart, they nearly went ahead with it a few times previously, which could have been hormones. But today, Aina had thought it over carefully and had decided. More awkwardly, Wang Jung, the greatest king, was a little excited and nervous. This feeling wasn't easy to describe, but he was a little at a loss. All these negative feelings stopped once he saw Aina. You didn't need to think about anything else when the most beautiful girl in the world was in front of you. Aina stood up gradually. The moonlight outside was so chaste. The moon of Tita was bigger and further. It was visually impactful and beautiful, but was nothing compared to the interior of the cabin. Aina had a simple Tita-style white dress. She bit her lip and gently peeled the dress off, revealing a body so beautiful that it could make one suffocate. Wang Jung couldn't believe his eyes, because Aina was even more perfect now. Wang Jung took off his clothes, his muscular figure on full display. His daily training wasn't in vain and was integrated with nature. He also boosted a perfect body. Aina was a girl after all. This was the maximum she could do, her expression of love and dedication to her lover. Wang Jung carried Aina and the two of them experienced the most intensive skin contact for the first time. That soft, silky, satin-like skin seemed to experience an electric current while rubbing along Wang Jung's rough skin. The sensation made her go numb and weak. They only had this feeling because they had waited and persisted for 5 years. Wang Jung put Aina on the bed gently and her legs clamped tight. She was fully prepared but was still nervous. This was instinct. Wang Jung started kissing Aina from her forehead. Bit by bit, Aina's body trembled with the kisses. Her white cheeks flushed and her body became more tense. Wang Jung smiled. Aina's nervousness made him relax instead. Wang Jung pulled Aina's hand away gently and parted her pair of fair, long legs. It was the moment he had been waiting for. After a cry of pain and happiness, they finally became one. They would be together forever. Wang Jung was doing his best to control himself at the beginning, but he let loose nearer the end. The moon had hidden itself away. There was only the sound of wind, as though they were cheering the lovebirds on. Wang Jung opened his eyes the next morning refreshed. He realized with surprise that his primordial regression technique had crazy progress. The flow of his breath was seamless and that stream from before suddenly became a river. The abundance and power was hard to describe in words. Wang Jung did ask Charcoal if there was indeed something like dual cultivation. There was nothing like that actually. It was only because the harmony of yin and yang would achieve very good results. That was the basic principle of the 5 elements. He just never dreamt there would be such amazing results. Wang Jung's cultivation base was extraordinary and had been accumulating for quite some time. The integration with Aina had transformed it entirely. Of course, Aina's yin energy was rich and had the best constitution and gift. She had the essence of Aslan's heritage and the spiritual baptism in Atlantis. They were perfect for each other. The Aina in his arms had little injuries here and there on her pure white body left inadvertently yesterday. Wang Jung's heart ached when he saw them, but his heart lit up with passion immediately. She was such a little elf. Wang Jung's lust couldn't be sated. He only stopped because he was worried about Aina. Aina was still sleeping soundly, this time without any nightmares. Her beautiful lashes flicked from time to time, enhancing her beauty. Wang Jung stared at her like the fool in love he was. He had always considered himself lucky. He might have gone through a lot, but the experiences weren't bad. There was no gap between Aina and him from his own point of view. It was a different story in the eyes of the world, which was what fueled him when he gave her up previously. There was no need to mull it over. Of course, the wait made everything today more beautiful. He kissed Aina gently and covered her well with the blanket. The beautiful princess wrinkled her nose slightly. That cuteness made him hungry for her again. He shut the door behind him. Wang Jung wasn't clothed as he came to the lakeside. He spread his arms out. There were no barriers between him and nature. This was the best way for humans to integrate with the universe. Ping! Wang Jung jumped into the lake. There weren't that many restrictions in Tita. The cold lake water didn't extinguish Wang Jung's desire. Ana's allure was beyond this world. Wang Jung was certain he was someone with strong determination, yet he couldn't control himself. The fiery inner heart and the cold lake water made Wang Jung exceptionally clear. Ability X existed because humans wanted to connect with the outer universe, while the inner universe was the power in humans themselves. This was the direction of physical techniques, which was the right direction. What about both? That seemed to be on the minds of everyone, but was it possible? Cultivation wasn't a two-way path, but enlightenment. One would only head in the right direction if they could understand. Why was there a need to split the universe? Human was the universe was human. That was the only reasonable explanation. That was the mystery of oneness. Wang Jung came out of the lake and sat by its edge. Ripples started spreading from underneath him. Wang Jung was flashing as well. The vitality and pure elements of Tita no doubt made this the best place to gain enlightenment. In addition, his love story with Ana was finally complete. That put Wang Jung into the best state. Whoosh, a golden light radiated from Wang Jung's body outwards and spread to the sky. The giants of Ling Mountain were up. The Titans didn't have a habit of sleeping in. Many giants and wise ones noticed that a sun seemed to have appeared near where Ada was staying. That golden ray of light was big and fuzzy. It wasn't dazzling, but it had unmatched strength and majesty, as though it was Tita. One by one, the Titans started dropping to their knees and prostrating themselves to the direction of the miracle. This was a miracle given by Ada. They were believers before, but now, they had become devotees. Shan Meng was filled with emotions. A miracle was finally descending on the Ling Mountain. That was their honor, this power, a supreme majesty that was integrated with nature. Only God could do it. That was the same for the wise ones. They had a high level of understanding of spiritual power. This golden light was a fusion, and this was what they looked up to. The origin of life, not technology, but the true essence of life. The news of the descent of the miracle spread like wildfire around Tita, because the wise ones used the Skylink. Technology was pretty convenient. The giants were slowly accepting it, but the wise ones were proficient with it in no time. Wang Jung himself was refreshed. This enlightenment came at an interesting him, even better than when he was in battle. Of course, the current enlightenment could be a result of his past battles as well. Something was moving. Wang Jung grabbed that active guy on top of his head. It was a white fish. He let it live since it had witnessed his enlightenment. Wang Jung threw that fish back into the lake and let it go. He didn't notice that fish peering out of the water, nodding to Wang Jung. Wang Jung didn't bother with it, but 2 hours passed by just like that. The princess should be up by now. He pushed the door open. Ana seemed to still be fast asleep. Wang Jung smiled. Feigning sleep? That wouldn't do. Iya, my dear Xiaoxi, why aren't you awake yet? I didn't have enough last night. It seems like I have to use a more thrilling way to wake you up, Wang Jung said naughtily. No, I'm up. Ana opened her eyes hurriedly. You dare bluff your hubby, that makes you guilty. Twice then, Wang Jung smiled. I surrendered last night, but you didn't let me off. Ah, what are you doing? Ana gave Wang Jung a death glare. Sigh, Wang Jung surrendered. One couldn't blame him. Ana was too tempting. He would not be able to get through the day without having her. Half an hour went past like that. Ana fell in Wang Jung's arms, completely weak and useless. My dear, do you want to eat? Wang Jung said as he held Ana. He was feeling like a beast, but that didn't raise any guilt in him. He was only human too. Ana rolled her eyes at Wang Jung. She didn't have any energy left, especially not to eat. I'll feed you, Wang Jung said, knowing he was the cause of this. This brunch was simply scrumptious. Baby Xiaoxi laid in Wang Jung's arms lazily after the food, enjoying the breeze from the lake. She really didn't want to do anything, nor did she have the strength to do anything anymore. Wang Jung might not be the best sweet talker, but she wasn't fussy about it as long as he meant it. The princess might have heard all sorts of praises sung about her, but the crude efforts by her lover made her very happy. Some girls were naturally beautiful. Ana didn't put any makeup on. She had only brushed her hair and tied it up casually. The clothes were prepared by Lan Ling. They weren't branded, but the traditional wear of Tita. They suited the climate here very well. They were simple but looked branded when Ana wore them. Xiaoshu prepared a welcome party for us, should we go? Wang Jung asked with a smile. Go, of course we should, Aina said. She was still weak, but she should be able to return back to normal at night, right? Don't push it. We can change the date if you really can't. Wang Jung smiled naughtily. Isn't everything your fault? Aina glared at Wang Jung again. Wang Jung was innocent, it could only be blamed on Aina for being too delicious for her own good. They went at night. It was held at Ling Mountain. It was simple and was more of a gathering between old friends. The giants didn't attend. These events were usually attended by the wise ones, while they attended battles. Yan Xiaoshu, Lan Ling, Mu Sen, Yi Zisu, Zhao Ellen, Jasper, Gabra. The war between Aslan and Arbiter was now the attention of the world. Jasper's country, Lea Sphinx, had joined the war on the side of Aslan. Gabra's Maka Republic had joined as well. The momentum of the coalition forces was great. The two countries wanted to profit from it. Of course, Gabra and Jasper weren't involved in such a big issue. However, it had been smooth, especially since the prices of resources soared after the war began. It was an unexpected windfall for the mining industry. Some of the girls were already chatting away happily. Aina, Yi Zisu, and Lan Ling were relatively mild and got along well. Yi Zisu was no stranger to Aina in the first place. They were even closer now. Lan Ling and Zhao Ellen weren't able to interject. Aina's involvement was very wide. She wasn't a figurehead princess, so the knowledge she possessed wasn't something normal people could rival. Wang Jung pulled Yan Xiaoshu aside. Find a time for me to meet old merchant. He didn't come and meet me. Yan Xiaoshu snickered. Boss, Professor Allen found a new way to use the supergravity energy ore and has been busy with it. This is connected to the defense of Tita. You probably have to push your personal affairs to later. We'll be scolded if we find him. Why don't you go to him yourself, even though I bet you are having the time of your life now. Are you itching for a beating? I guess so. I haven't beaten you for the past few years since I was busy, Wang Jung warned. Yan Xiaoshu backed away. A gentleman reasons with words, not fists. We're all adults. Shall we go with the former? It was still alright all those years back. Now their combat power was 1 versus 10,000. Yan Xiaoshu didn't want to take any chances. We have yet to conquer the universe, but that dream is half fulfilled. Yan Xiaoshu couldn't help but smile as he looked at the girls chatting away. He liked this kind of atmosphere, not the rigid kind where he had to care about the way he held the wine glass. What do you mean? Hee, boss, you understand. Yan Xiaoshu elbowed Wang Jung playfully. Conquering the princess of the greatest empire was akin to conquering half of the world. Jasper and Gabra brought a box of fruits in. They were all specialties from Tita. They really couldn't bear to leave now that they had gotten used to the lifestyle here. They were here most of the time, only leaving when business called for it. They had started other businesses here as well. Jasper was in real estate. The new immigrants demanded more facilities, and only the 5 big cities fulfilled their requirements. He developed real estate in the 5 big cities on one side and then added some bouquet hotels. Gabra, on the other hand, was constructing the support facilities they were lacking. The speed of development was beyond imagination due to the cheap labor and efficiency of the Titans. Mu Sen was very clear about this. They had put in so much effort to ensure there was a balance between urban construction and the ecological environment. The humans kept their promises, so they would also keep theirs. The feeling was mutual. Yan Xiaoshu was initially worried about whether Aina could get along with them. It seemed like he was overly concerned. Aina's intelligence was proportionate to her beauty. She knew Wang Jung valued his brothers and admired their relationship. In the Oracle Star, everything was in order under the control of the elders. Lear and Luo Fei's cases were continuously breaking previous records. Sharjah seemed to be living in the heaven he created every day. He was God in this isolated world, and could do anything he wanted to his own experiment. Lear didn't get conceited because of the success. It was inevitable for it to be smooth so far. Their phagocytic ability played a huge role. This was one of the main reasons why he and Luo Fei had managed to come to this stage. Lear would talk with Luo Fei when they took a rest out of the culture tank. They would discuss why they were more successful than the other subjects and what they had to do so that their bodies and minds could win through the processes of evolution. Boss, I think my absorption of the gene alteration fluid is reducing. If it wasn't for the phagocytic ability, I think I would have started to reject it. Luo Fei started sharing his own feelings. Lear nodded. He had the same feeling, though not as obvious. This phase was at its limit. There would be no more transformation going forwards, just accumulation. Discussions like today's were very important. Professor Sharjah would often join in to discuss the results. He would also systematically fine-tune the gene alteration fluid for the day after to better adapt to Lear and Luo Fei's evolution. Today, however, Sharjah was not in sight. The satisfied Luo Fei didn't feel anything. He actually felt like they had more freedom now that that old man wasn't here. Lear, however, smelled a slight anomaly. The current Oracle Star had its future fixed. The problems left behind by the second elder should have been cleared out by the Great Elder. After the cleanup, the rest of the agendas to move forward the genetic fusion experiments had to be one of the top priorities. Lear didn't expect Professor Sharjah not to appear even when they went back into the culture tank. Sharjah only appeared in the afternoon the day after, when Lear and Luo Fei once again emerged from the culture tank. His face was dark, as though he was beaten. The pain on his face was even more serious after he saw Lear. The Great Elder wants to start the last phase of the experiment immediately. Sharjah's original plan was to continue this phase for another month to let Lear and Luo Fei become more adapted to the changes in their genes. To the Saint, however, it wasn't important if Lear or Luo Fei were dead or alive. A pawn should be ready to be sacrificed any time. To the Great Elder, it was most important for him to obtain the data from these experiments. They were going to transform a whole army of countless soldiers. Adapt to the changes? Perhaps it would be necessary in the future. However, the subjects of the future might not have bodies as great as Lear and Luo Fei's. It was necessary to weaken them so that the data could be useful for future subjects. Lear smiled. This was within his expectations. Is there a problem? From your data, no, but if we can give more time for the adaptation, even a week more, that would be. Sharjah's sentence hung in the mid-air when boom. The door to the laboratory was forced open. A fully armed team rushed in. Burrow shrieked and tried to block them but was pushed to the wall. A black muzzle was pressed against the back of his head. These soldiers were well seasoned. They got the whole laboratory under control in the blink of an eye. Sharjah was livid. He stormed up to them fearlessly in an attempt to do something. What are you doing? Do you know where this is? Great Elder's orders. From this moment onwards, the laboratory is sealed. Professor Sharjah, please comply. A hoarse voice coughed and the 13th Elder came out from behind with a smile in his eyes and a strange aura. Lear frowned and pulled Luo Fei along back into their culture tank without a word. Heaven rank. Lear rolled his fists as he laid in the culture tank, feeling his body absorb these foreign substances. Lear fell asleep with heavy thoughts. In the distant void, Lear saw numerous space shuttles. This was a huge fleet. It possessed a powerful, suffocating force. No doubt that it could conquer everything: life, death, agriculture, civilization, and the end. It had the power to control everything. It was for the king. However, he wasn't the king of this mighty fleet. He was peering from the air. He wasn't alone. There was an aura from his back. He desperately tried to turn back, but he couldn't. Gasp. Gulu, Gulu. He woke up in the culture tank filled with bubbles from his overbreathing. Lear's heart sank not because of the dream, but because the fluid in the culture tank wasn't far from the waterline. He had not completed the necessary absorption. He had reached the limit of this phase. This feeling wasn't good, especially after he saw the 13th Elder yesterday. He turned his head sharply towards a smiling face. He could see him, but Lear didn't sense his presence at all. Lear felt crushed. The word, heaven rank, appeared in his mind again, like a huge, unconquerable mountain. The 13th Elder looked at the experiment quietly. Ambition? He didn't care, neither would his master. It wasn't even important whether or not Sharjah was loyal. What was important was whether or not they still had value. You had a dream, Gulu. Lear took a deep breath and the bubble escaping from his respiration floated up. I really envy you. We haven't dreamt for a long, long time. Do you know that feeling? Sleep's like chewing wax when you have no dreams, but nonetheless something you have to do. Lear's eyes flashed. You're curious why I'm telling you this? The 13th elder asked, but he didn't give him an explanation. Be prepared, the final stage is starting imminently. A powerful sedative was shot directly into Lear's veins. The cold liquid quickly took his consciousness away. That bone-chilling despair, he turned his head unconsciously, the eyelids of his tired eyes falling fast. He saw Luo Fei being injected with the same sedative, but he was fast asleep and didn't react much. Strangely, Lear calmed down. He wasn't alone. They were experimental subjects from the beginning. Lear knew this a long time ago. However, he wasn't about to give up. He could only make the people who looked down on him feel regret when he was alive, no matter who it was. The laboratory had been refitted overnight. Lear and Luo Fei's culture tanks were pushed into the most central transformation equipment. At this moment, the fluid in the culture tank was completely replaced with a special genetic supplement fluid. Z1084 generation genetic fluid. Theoretically, their transformation rate could keep up with the biological energy required for evolution. The 13th elder stood behind the Great Elder on the second floor of the experiment observation room, explaining the steps of the experiment. The Great Elder didn't have the time to wait for them to take their time, since there were only 2 experimental subjects. The only thing still of interest to the Great Elder was that Lear was one of those in the prophecy. In the laboratory below, Sharjah was carrying out the final phase through the use of a robotic surgical arm. He injected Lear and Luo Fei with the solutions. Cut open and filled in with numerous nano-robots working tirelessly. This was the highest level of biotechnology. Sharjah took all the procedures seriously. This was the first time he reached the final phase, and this was the deciding moment for success or failure. The Great Elder looked on icily. Success or failure mattered not to him. He wanted to see the results. Was the special power truly the key to this experiment? Nothing much could capture his attention as a heaven-rank warrior. Sharjah took every step of the operation seriously. Every injection was carefully calibrated. He tweaked the way he operated through the data displayed on the instruments. Both Lear and Luo Fei's minds were stable in the culture tanks. Everything went smoothly. The preparations from before had shown their effects now. The perfect combination of Zerg and human genes, perfect construction of the double helix. Sharjah's face eased. The most difficult stage had passed. The place where the divergence had the highest chance of happening didn't happen. This should be owing to the phagocytic ability of Lear and Luo Fei. Not only that, their wills were very strong. This fusion was equivalent to the transformation of the soul, which was why the experiment subject's will was really important. What was left was the moment of transformation. Everything was ready for the quantitative leap, the magical step. The instruments monitoring the subjects suddenly flashed in red just as Sharjah's assistant wiped the sweat off his forehead. Abnormal reaction. Life force is depleting fast. Burrow, who was in charge of life force monitoring, shouted with panic in his voice. Lear and Luo Fei's life stats were falling like a landslide. It was like an avalanche. Another dose of Z1084, injecting V9 adenine. Sharjah issued an order quickly. Burrow completed the steps in an instant. The rapid depletion of life was alleviated, but it didn't solve anything. The change in Lear and Luo Fei's original skin color was dying and could be seen by the naked eye. Why was this happening? Horror floated onto Sharjah's face. No, it shouldn't be this way. Everything should have gone smoothly. There was no adaptive time needed, which was the most difficult part, and it was executed perfectly just now. What had gone wrong? Professor, there's no production of the special protease. There are still 2 sets of mechanisms, 1 set of Zerg genes, and 1 set of human genes. Burrow shrieked. These results could only mean one thing. Everything was for the ultimate fusion. Only a perfect fusion could give birth to a perfect new species. If not, it would just be a half-human monster, a downright failure. Lear tossed around in pain in the culture tank. His body had begun to change. His chest and abdomen began shrinking sharply, followed by his head shrinking and then expanding. Theory was theory after all. This was the last step in human engineering, where no one had ventured before. There were many words to describe pain, but this pain was indescribable. It originated from the core of his cells, from his genes. It wasn't transmitted through his nerves, so there was no way of stopping it. Lear could feel the effects of the sedative disappearing from his body. He couldn't hear, but he could feel Burrow and Sharjah's despair. It was a pitch-black feeling, the kind of fear that would engulf him if he was alone in the darkness. Despair was an emotion that could spread. It was over, it failed. So tired. He could feel every cell in his body vibrating, succumbing to death. He had no chance of being a monster at the very last stage. It was over. He had tried. He had given his all. Perhaps it was time for him to let go. So tired, he just wanted to throw everything away. Why had he come to this stage? At this moment between life and death, at the very moment where he wanted to give up, Lear suddenly lost himself. What was all this for? His path had been taken away by someone else. He had no other path to go to. Yes, why did he not have a path? No, I'm Lear, I'm Lear, I'm Lear, I'm Lear. What was his purpose for living, his purpose for fighting, his purpose for bending, and his purpose for change? It was because he was Lear. Not for his family, not for honor, only for himself. The unique Lear. He had to live even as a monster. Even if he became a dog, or an ugly monster, he had a chance as long as he was alive. Smack! A ripple broke out from within the tank. The clear sky of the holy city was suddenly covered with dark clouds. Lightning struck and the air became heavy. Those in the trial for the Son of Saint suddenly felt repulsive. It was as though something had just risen out of hell like never before. Lear's will was separated from the pain, floating, like a soul with the wind into the fog. Direction. He had never been lost. Now, there was nothing more to lose. Bang! The culture tank burst open. A ripple went through the expressionless great elder's eyes, a strange smile played on his lips. The saint had invested a lot into this heresy technology. There were hundreds of them, but were generally all child's play. This time, however, the saint seemed to have made something different.